Are you visiting the parks in Orlando and you need a break from Mickey Mouse and all the movies? Then do yourself a favor and go to Busch Gardens in Tampa. This is an amazing park. It can be defined as thrills, no frills. Not a lot of storytelling, not a lot of theming, but 10 solid and intense attractions, a lot of fun, and a lot of metal hardware for you to enjoy. And then, well, there is Iron Grazzi. First of all, subscribe to the channel, otherwise the video will pause now. Busch Gardens is not far away from Orlando, and when you buy the entry ticket for the park, you can use also the free shuttle bus with lots of pickup points in Orlando. The theme park, I said, is not themed, but it's not really true because the theming is good. Of course, it's nothing compared to Disney or Universal standards, but still there is quite a lot going on, including a area for kids, Sesame Street themed, and lots of attractions. The park is also a zoo, so there are lots of animals, and you can do a safari either with the van, but I suggest to use the train because it goes exactly through the safari. It's quicker, but also it gives you an overview of the park itself, including all the rides on offer. To mention that the safari, it's nice, the animals look fine, they got plenty of space, but it's funny because there are no fences, so the animals could literally jump on the train, and we were wondering what if the train is gonna stop. So a bit of a weird one, but still a nice experience. I'm gonna mention that in the flops, I'm not a big fan of animals in captivity. The safari itself looks alright. There are other occasions in Busch Gardens where animals are a bit suffering. Generally speaking, I would have preferred not to see animals at all. But the safari done with the train is still a good experience. But you're here for the rides. So let's start with Cheetah's Hunt, which is a launched Intamin coaster, family oriented. As you can see, the station is nicely themed. It's not super intense, it's got multiple launches, but it's got a super long layout, including a water feature, which is a kind of one of its kind. Really enjoyable, and it's a transversal, family-oriented coaster, but really good. Moving on, you got the dive coaster B&M Shakra, which is a dive coaster in its perfect shape and form. Not one drop, but two drops. Nicely themed along the track. Station as well is nicely themed. Super intense, super fun. The track length, it's finally good, so it's not just the drop itself. As I said, the two drops, so a really nice implementation of B&M dive coaster. Definitely one of the highlights of the park. And then, of course, there is this water feature, which is super famous and super fun to watch off-ride. Keep in mind that you're gonna get wet if you get too close to take a picture. Just saying that because I've seen people doing that, not me. Then you got Tigris, which is a super compact layout coaster. Launched, you're gonna be launched forward and backward in the station. Super fast as well. Interesting because well, the layout is compact, so you keep like zooming in and out of the station, but also because the restraints are pretty light, so you haven't got over the shoulder restraints, therefore you're kind of free to move, but given the riding experience, it's kind of unusual. In this park there are plenty of B&M coasters, and here you got Kumba, which is a sit-down B&M coaster of the like of Dragon Khan in Portaventura. But the track layout is insane, it's got lots of inversion, it's pretty intense, and the final helix is to die for. On offer, there are also water rides, which are basically the Jungle Rapids and the standard Log Flume. I didn't try them, so I cannot really say if they're good or not, but it's still nice that they are there, considering that in Tampa the weather is pretty hot. Then in terms of flat ride, there used to be this drop tower. Unfortunately, it's currently closed for maintenance, and they are changing all the metal cables, so it's going to take quite a while to go back in operations. It's a pity because this is one of a kind, because they are being dropped face down. Then there is Scorpion, which is an old school inverting coaster. It's a kind of a really rough, noisy, shaky coaster, and it's got just this inversion, which is pretty small. But the peculiarity of this coaster is that the restraints are basically non-existent, which is kind of unusual considering that you're going upside down. But because the inversion loop is so small, actually the force is going to keep you like on your seat, so you don't even need a restraints. But it's a kind of unusual experience when you are upside down without being held by any restraints. And then there is Serengeti Flyer, which is the new addition to the park, new flat ride 2023. Now, if you're watching this from the UK, of course, this looks familiar. It's an SNS, it's not a new concept. We go in Thor Park Rush, which is identical. But this one is actually double the size. So it's a massive flat ride, lots of airtime, breathtaking views when you are on board, but also a kind of frightening and impressive view when you are in the queue line. This ride is insane, is huge. It's super fun, super intense, quite fast as well. And it's a perfect addition for the park, considering they just had one intense flat ride, which, by the way, is currently closed for maintenance. So it was a really nice addition for Busch Gardens, and I really enjoyed Serengeti Flyer, considering just the size and how impressive this ride is. Really, really nice to try it. It just opened a few weeks ago, and I really loved it. In another area of the park, which is nicely themed, you're going to find Cobra's Curse and Montu. Cobra's Curse, it's a spinning coaster by Mack, which is kind of a Ride to Happiness in the making, if you want, because it has got a really nicely themed station. And then it's a show off of skills and capabilities of Mack with spinning coasters. You got the usual Mack elevator instead of a chain lift, and then a nice and long, not too intense track layout, nicely themed. The coaster is not free spinning, so the spinning is kind of controlled during half of the track, and then it starts spinning at the end, but it's still a really nice and fun ride. And then you got Montu, which is a B&M inverted coaster. So you would say, well, that's the same as Nemesis, right? Well, it's not. Just because when they designed the track, they went completely nuts. So this thing here has got 8 inversions. 8. It's still the typical B&M inverted coaster with over-the-shoulder restraints, but the track length and layout is pure insane. It's just a joke. It's mesmerizing even when you look at it from an off-board perspective. And it goes underground twice. And then there is Iron Gwazi, an RMC at its best. Just to let you know, I haven't got any footage of this one, so I'm going to use some third-party footage, just because we decided to ride it once more rather than starting filming. This one, it's the RMC as it should be. Now, I've tried only another RMC, which is Zadra in Energylandia in Poland, but that one started as an RMC, so it was built from scratch as an RMC, while this one is an RMC as it should be, so starting from a wooden coaster, getting refurbished and turned into a hybrid coaster by RMC. This one it's intense, it's nice, it's got some nuts transitions, but also I found it so re-rideable. I tried the first row, which is basically what you see here in the POV, and the last row. The last row is so intense that you are literally like just flying from start to finish. You're gonna touch the seat basically only when you are in the station. This coaster is to die for. For me, it's the best coaster in Busch Gardens, and probably also the best coasters in Orlando. Worth a trip. Say that, what are the tops and floors? The top, I think, is a nice park, amazing lineup, really nice theming. As said already, I'm not a big fan of animals in captivity, but overall, I can strongly recommend to spend at least one day in Busch Gardens in Tampa, just because the lineup, it's really solid. It's thrills, no frills. And if you want to take a break from Disney magic and the Universal moviness, this one is really your destination. I hope you enjoyed the video and please subscribe to the channel.